we're going to get in we're going to leave our highliner. We're going to go down, think about what we know so far about the trials, the Hajj, the journey of the Fremen that was so important for them culturally to become adults, to enter into heaven. You had to finish the trials. You had to prove your worth as an adult. For Fremen who didn't have a way to actively contribute to the siege, you walked into the desert, and so you have to really be focused. And the idea is these their kindly God was always being very hard on them because it was what was best for them. Food is good, um, to help them survive. Well, hello there. You just missed us talking about Kulons. How are you? Um, that would bring him out of the woodwork. That would bring. Why does it do this? Why does it hate me? Okay, so let's look at trial number 5. Hold on, that's not what we wanted. Video. I'm sorry. I know, buttons. Our bowl full of drugs in a strange cave. I like how we're just really trusting. We're just like, yeah, roll with it. Just roll with it. Because we all need drugs, right? This is a very druggy game. That's
Who is the creator? Ibn Qutayba. May his passing cleanse the world. Do you understand, Rani? Our God
Send me a
gave us the
personal
gift
message.
of food and the words of the Kitab al-Ibar.
Although you're welcome in the Discord.
Have been overturned.
You like it when people come?
Shai Halud cleanses Arrakis, creates the air we breathe. The soft
Sure thing.
sand
When the
we pitch
stream is
our
over, I will
tents
send out the codes.
and smites our enemies.
Need more volume on. Is that better? It's always so hard to judge the volume when doing stuff. Bila Kaifa.
We grew soft on poetry, an easy planet. And God brought the weight of kindliness to prepare us for the typhoon that comes.
I like how they give you an already aggro worm. That's. May his passing cleanse the world. As I throw my pin in the floor. Don't accidentally roll over it.
The world is a carcass. Who can turn away the angel of death? Our footsteps are as the drums of the slavers, calling Shai Halud upon our enemies.
I've always done it that way. I didn't know you could do it a different way.
Men must learn to live with their gods. Who can deny a Fremen the right to walk or ride where he wills? Only Shai Hulud,
Thumper.
the Maker.
Gnome.
Did not Ibn Giltaiba, who is the creator, the maker? May his passing cleanse the world. Remember
Yep.
Poritrin, Bene Gesserit.
Do you remember that stream that the devs did when they were out in the deep desert and they had a guy on a
Ibn
bike,
Giltaiba,
on a
who
bike
is
running
the
around
creator?
doing thumper duty?
The Maker,
like,
may
it needs a
his
bike to carry
passing
them.
cleanse the world.
Yeah.
Remember Poritrin, Bene
Look.
Gesserit.
So this one gets you the thumper. And what I have on my notes here, right, is their works have been overturned. And we go back to Sadis, who's our teacher, the saint, right? Who's talking to us, and we had the stuff from last time where we saw their works were overturned. There's a lot of almost biblical feeling, which is why the Zen Sunni wanderers left, right? Because the break with the orange with the Catholic, the official imperial religion, right? So Sadis is talking here.
Creator,
Who is the
Ibn
creator
Giltaiba, may
as our
his
teacher,
passing cleanse the world.
right? Hey, Sacked. May his passing cleanse the world. Remember, the planet is essentially terraformed by the worms. They make all the sand. So, and when his passing goes by, he kills everything he touches. Right? They just, they get too close and you die. We used to bounce off of them. We don't get to bounce anymore.
Do you
We die.
understand, Wally?
But more importantly, so the quote that this is from Herbert, right? You who have defeated us, say to yourselves that Babylon is fallen and its works have been overturned. I say to you that still the man that remains on trial, and each man in his own dock, each man is a little war. So this idea that every man is supposed to be continuing to improve themselves, that's part of the Hajj, right? The idea that we're continuing, it's not over, it's not done yet. There's this constant need for improvement and honing ourselves to be worthy. Our kindly God is constantly putting this pressure on us to be able to survive the storm at the end of the universe. Because we want to smite our enemies, because our kind God is wanting us to be smiters, right? The lesson of the tidal sand, and this one was a little bit. Hold on, this we can scooch forward a little bit. Hold on.
Cleanses Arrakis, creates the air we breathe. The soft sand.
The weight of a kindly God is a fearful thing. God loves us so much. God has put us in this hellhole. Remember back in the second trial when we arrived here, we were home. Arrakis is suffering. We are made to suffer. This suffering makes us stronger, and through our strength, we will survive the hurricane at the end of the universe. And So everything about this is to cut away everything that's soft or easy about the people. It's all here to make a hard people. And we saw that in the movie, how hard Shiny was and how hard and pragmatic Stilgar is. If you're not useful, I'm going to leave you out in the desert. In the mini series, right, after Paul is emperor and they drop the stone burner, right, and Paul makes Stilgar promise to offer the eyes. He's like, I know they won't take them, but you got to offer them anyway, because he was like, we don't have to be this hard anymore. But Arrakis sharpens us. What kind of blade will you be, right? And yeah, it's this constant pressure to sharpen and hone you to be. And like I said, we talked last time about the breeding program that started on Rossack, and the idea of creating people who would be hard enough to survive. And if you're not, they leave you in the desert because you don't serve any purpose. And the cave that used to be the fifth trial, there's a recording from a Sayadina who's saying, I'm getting old. I'm going to have to walk into the desert soon, because her usefulness will have decreased, and her needs, she won't be able to take care of herself. She's not useful anymore, and they don't have a whole lot of space or time to deal with people who can't keep up. If you can't keep up, you're useless, and they don't have time for you. And it's an honor to them to give themselves up for the betterment of the group. They're not holding the group back when they go walk into the desert. But I wanted to talk a little bit about this bit. Yeah, it is a waste of water, but that's the sacrifice. That's the sacrifice. Because it was, you don't put, as a rule, you didn't put live people into a death still. But the sacrifice to give yourself to God. You've served your people, and now you're giving yourself to God. The bigger waste was when the Sardaukar came through and the Harkonnens came through with flamethrowers, because that was making sure that they couldn't come in and grab any of the dead. They don't habitually throw live people into death stills. It was a very rare punishment to do so. I don't make the rules. You got to go dig up Frank Herbert and ask him. But I wanted to talk a little bit about this quote from.
And God brought the weight of kindliness.
It gave us the gift, right, to prepare us for the typhoon that comes. The bit that makes us hard, and this bit right here, I think a lot of people miss the purpose. Stay off the sand. Because here's a worm, climb, get up off the sand. And this was a lesson I think most of us probably had already learned before we found this trial. If you were running around on the sand, and by this point you kind of deserve to get eaten. Because, yeah, you can see how it flashes like you're taking damage. Get off the sand. But as a, when you're climbing around, a lot of there's going to be some jumping puzzles and climbing puzzles and that sort of thing later on as you go through. I mean, you got to climb the Sentinel, and you got to climb the Hand of Kadir. You can climb the hammer. You could climb the Table of the Gods if you really are a glutton for punishment. I can't imagine how he'd actually get up to the top climbing the table, but this is the part I wanted to talk about.
The world is a carcass. Who can turn away the angel of death? Our footsteps are as the drums of the slavers, calling Shai Halud.
Well, that would suck. It would suck to be getting eaten up on the structures. So what that is, yeah, I bet. The weight of the kindly God. Oh, the world is a carcass. Who can turn away the angel of death, which Shai Halud has decreed must be? And that is a death chant from the Fedaykin. And the world is dead, and it all belongs to Shai Halud. We're just the messengers. You just don't know you're dead yet. And then the bit about the drum sound to call. So our feet will be like the slavers' drums, and that's a sound that the Fremen know well. And we're going to call Shahaloud to remove these interlopers, to remove. It's not that the Fremen want the spice for themselves; they're kind of indifferent about the spice. But Dune is dead. Dead game. Um, they just want everybody to leave them alone. They're tired of being persecuted, and all that persecution has led them to be a people that are hard enough that the Sardaukar are like, I don't know, hard enough that when they had to fight the Sardaukar, the Fremen were like, yeah, they're not too bad. Yeah, that was a fun fight. So they're a hard people. Um, yeah, I guess now is a good time to do another giveaway, right? I got 3 more keys to give away. 3 more keys. For this one, because if you have it, you'll have to re-enter for this one because the buttons, I don't make the rules. So if when I hit the button, I'm going to give everybody a moment. If you want a copy, you will you, my starter car had to run from women and children. The Fremen are hard people. So everybody who wants one, now is the time to put an entry for. I got 3 of the mural codes left. So put your names in. Everybody will need if you want it, put it in. Even if you put it in before, you got to redo it. Because I only set them for max 5 minutes, and once that 5 minutes is over, I have to restart the whole thing. So it is the buttons, and I don't make the rules. Be like Haifa. That's be like Haifa. But that's okay. Um, as we go through, I mean, the idea that you're finding the Fremen, part of finding them is understanding why they're gone, not just the imperial line of because we said so. Um, Everybody lies, everybody manipulates, everybody has their own agendas, and really you can't trust anybody. Really, you can't trust anybody. The button points the way. Hmm. Yeah, the buttons are a thing. I'm finally starting to feel a little bit more confident with the giveaways. Um, everybody's well, it's politics. I mean, there were why would the emperor want Leto dead? He kind of liked Leto, but there was Leto was becoming very, very popular because of the war between him and the Harkonnens. His troops were going to be able to rival the Sardaukar, which was a problem. If the skeletons and plans and plots that Shaddam was making ever came to light. There was a whole lot of people who it was a whole lot of I won't tell if you won't tell. Everybody's got their secrets. But Shaddam, being the emperor, had some pretty big skeletons in the closet. If those ever came to light, Leto would not seek power for himself, but because he was very popular, that could cause problems. So there was a lot of reasons to attempt to remove Leto from the board. So yeah, everybody's got it. I mean, and don't get me wrong, the Atreides did stuff, they just didn't get caught, and they didn't brag about it. The Harkonnens were like, look, we're mustache twirling villains. They didn't care, but it's yeah. Okay, so I'm going to give you a few more seconds, and then we're going to do the next draw if you have, or if you're wanting to enter into this one. Yeah. Fremen soon. Okay. So picking winner number 3, Mila. Yay! DM me, otherwise I will, me, I'll forget. Um, and I will get you your code. Yay! Okay, so that was trial number 5. Okay, so we have them coming from, which planet were they on? They were on Poritrin, weren't they? Yeah. I have a bit about the planets too, so we're going to talk a little bit about where they came from and why. So kind of put them all into some semblance of structure. We can pretend their structure, right? We can pretend. Media. Design. I didn't set up enough of these. Okay. So looking at trial 6, which should be nice and short. If you run these, you know how short this one is.
The Sardaukar destruction extends even to these small shrines. I cannot decipher their purpose, but the altar seems to have contained a quantity of spice. And the murals. Such beauty to be destroyed by the cut of a lasgun or blade. All I could decipher from here is another step on the journey of the Zensuni wanderers. Thurgrod. Perhaps there's some link between the Zensuni and the Fremen.
Something that I've often wondered about that comment. Is there a link between the Zensuni and the Fremen? We know that the Fremen are the descendants of the Zensuni wanderers, and they've been on Arrakis for a very long time. The scale, I think it's hard for us to kind of understand the scale of time that has passed from the time that the Fremen arrived till now. And the idea that we know the Zensuni left Earth, and there was a schism with religions, and the Zensuni wanted to hold on to kind of their sect of Islam, when the imperial line was trying to kind of moosh the Abrahamic religions together, because they said religion is a bone of contention, so we need to kind of see what we can do to bring people together, and started trying to make what ended up being the Orange Catholic Bible, and to kind of unify things so there'd be less strife. And of course there's going to be schisms of people who don't want to do that, and one of those groups was the Zensuni, so they left. Hence that constant feeling of persecution everywhere they go. But yeah, they went to Thurgrod, and it is one of the planets that they don't know much about. And of course the Sardaukar left their mess, as the Sardaukar do, because that's how they be. And then let's look at the Trial 7. Trial 7 is a little bit longer, and then after Trial 7, we'll do another giveaway. This one's really the only one you have to fight your way into, I think. Or you can probably sneak past. But Hopefully the volume's good on this one.
Why were we created? Ibn Kirtaiba. The weight of a kindly god is a fearful thing. Do you understand, Wali? Our god gave us the Hulasikali Wana, the wind that eats flesh, and the words of the Kitab al-Ibar. Carry shelter always against the coming of Kralizek. Bila Kaifa.
Bila Kaifa.
We were exiled from Nilotic al-Urobra for our unwillingness to fight. For our willingness to forgive. For our willingness to forget. And the judges said, mine enemies are like green blades eaten down, that did stand in the path of the tempest. Hast thou not seen what our Lord did? The weight of a kindly God is a fearful thing. Why did God create us? We are the action and knowledge of God. And He has prepared the way. Ibn Kirtaiba, the typhoon's struggle comes. Why were we created? To survive Kralizek, the war at the end of the universe. Yahya Shuhada. Remember Nilotic al-Urobra. Bila Kaifa.
Okay, so this trial gets you the Stilton. So we picked up the compactor as a tool. We've picked up the thumper, right? But we were told, we were given the sun to defy, right? Because defiance leads to thought, and we were put here to be defiant. We were given the still tent. We were shown that the tidal sand, all of this environment here is suffering, and all of these things were made to make us survive this war at the end of the universe. That's why we were created. That's why the Fremen are here on Arrakis, is to survive the end of the universe. Meaning it would be something like Ragnarok. There's going to be people who survive it, and the idea for the Fremen was that they were going to be that people. And being on Arrakis made them hard enough. Their kindly God punished them enough and honed them enough and conditioned them enough that they would be able to survive the war at the end of the universe. So thinking about how that fits in the game, well, the Sardaukar eradication, would they actually be enough to do that? I mean, we know from the movies the Harkonnen have been trying, but there's also the idea that there's only a few thousand Fremen out in the desert. We knew that there were millions. So the Fremen are really good at hiding. But the idea that, could the Harkonnens be the war at the end of our universe? No, the Fremen are, it's best they're annoying. We'll just go someplace else. You can't find us. And I would think the Sardaukar would be similar. We know that the Sardaukar, there was a whole lot of slaughter. We saw that in the first Spice Dream, just piles and piles of bodies. But in the scope of things, the Fremen are like, this is nothing. This is nothing compared to the suffering that we've had for the last 10,000 plus years, because we know that from like the prophecy show, which was 10,000 years ago, the Fremen are on Arrakis. We know that this is already stuff going on. So this has been ongoing. The Fremen have been preparing for this end of the universe scenario for a very, very long time. And so they were given the storm to prepare them for Kalazak. Everything is to prepare them for this end, where they will be survivors, right? Something about the planets that I found interesting. So the first planet that they left, someone asked about, there's a test. The first planet that they left was this one. This was Nilotic al-Aruba, which in Arabic translates to people of the Nile, the Arabs of the Nile. So this was them leaving Terra because they were too nice. We were forced to leave because we wouldn't fight, because we forgave. We were too nice, and so we were forced to leave Terra a long time ago, right? Which would make sense. Everybody had to leave Terra at some point, but this is when their story of their leaving. And then they went to Poratrin. And then they went to Seleucus Secundus, a land devoid of gods and violence was the religion. And that's where they really started honing the idea of this prescience. Even without the spice, they, as a culture, had created this cultural memory that they could tap into, that adab, that Tao, that guided them to here and helped them keep their culture together, because stagnation is death. We heard that in the first Spice Dream. Stagnation is death. So we can't, we've got to hold ourselves together. We go on the Hajj, we remember, and after 10,000 years, we remember. So as an oral tradition, they really focus on telling those stories. We remember, we travel, we go on the Hajj, we go even in Arrakis, remember Poratrin, remember Rosek, remember as their culture memory. Then from Seleucus Secundus, they went to Bela Tegese, another planet they don't know too much about. That one's been lost to memory. Then they went to Rosek, which is where the sorceresses that became the Sayadina came up with the poison drug that allowed them to share that ancestral memory, which for people who have an oral tradition would go a very long way. When Jessica took the water of life, she saw Rosek, because the ancestral memory that goes down through. So, however many 10,000. I mean, I imagine it would be very confusing after a few thousand years, and hence the concerns about abominations. But that was part of her ancestral memory that went with the water of life, to be able to see all the way back. And the idea that the breeding program was not meant to create a single leader. It wasn't meant to do the Kwisatz Haderach. It was meant to create a people that could survive. And that was the goal from Rosek forward. It was not a single leader, but unfortunately it left them very vulnerable to the Bene Gesserit with their orthodoxy and their adherence to prophecies. It made them very vulnerable to being infiltrated, and those prophecies planted and what they already had kind of twisted. The breeding program to give them the Lisan al-Gaib, that was the Bene Gesserit's influence to the person from off the world. After Rosek, they went to Thurgrad, which is one of the planets they've forgotten. From there, they went to Harmontep, and they talked to that about children were taken as slaves. we were given the sun to defy all of this pain and all of this suffering and all of this suffering. We were suffering. Got to Arrakis, man. We know suffering. We can do this. And then we came to Arrakis. And I was going to talk a little bit about some of the scripture stuff that they have, because we talked a little bit about last time, because it keeps coming up in the It's not what I wanted. Add scene. Go to media. Add a screen. They keep talking about these things, about how their enemies will be cut down. Right? And we talked about this last time about the memory that Jessica had and the memory that Xantara had, and her mind remembered something that she hadn't specifically been taught, right? And even Kataiba, as far as the spot where the dust ends, I see a Fremen with a book of examples, the Saddis, the saint that is teaching you throughout this process. He reads to Alat, the son whom he defied and subjugated. So, the idea that we walk by black shade, we wear the still suits, and we defy the sun. The weak people running around out here, they melt, they dehydrate, they die. They're having to carry around liter johns of water. And our still suits keep us alive. Our sieges, where we have gone and started some, they started terraforming even a little bit before Kynes, but Kynes really, Kynes Senior really kicked it off. But the idea that they have managed to survive this harsh planet. We have subjugated the Arrakis. And he reads to the status of the trial, and this is what he reads: "My enemies are like green blades eaten down, that did stand in the path of the tempest at the end of the universe." That storm that is coming, right? Yeah, those little buttons. Sorry, my stuff had stopped scrolling. But this part's important. What makes Fremen and the Bene Gesserit so dangerous is their capacity to remember, because societies lose that. And we it's like playing a really extended game of telephone, where things get warped. And how people forget things. So it's really important that for the Bene Gesserit, they have to be kind of trained for it. And so the Saidina, they have to be kind of trained and prepared for it. And you notice most of them are older women, postmenopausal, no babies to worry about. Probably learned the hard way not to give it to children, because or people who could have children, because obviously it causes problems. Abominations are no. Hast thou not seen what our Lord did? He sent the pestilence among them. He did lay schemes against us. They are like birds scattered by the huntsman. They try, and they just poof away. When we come, they can't stand against us. Their works have been overturned. The fire of God mount over thy heart, and the fire of God set alight. Thine enemies shall fall. Bila Kaifa. And so we see this in the trials over and over. And we see this, talked about how it's important as part of the Fremen culture to discover more about them. Who are they? And how to understand, to find the Fremen, you got to understand the Fremen. You were supposed to go wake the sleeper. Well, what does that mean? We know it as people who are fans of the franchise have an idea of what that means, but there's people who aren't. But what does that mean? Because usually when we think about a game like this, we think about how we would be the sleeper. And so if you've done the advanced trainers, right? If you do the trainers, right, and you do the advanced ones and you go to the Mentat trainer, what is it he says? It's like you've already known this stuff before. You've just needed to awaken. And so this idea that you need to understand things, you need to kind of to wake up and shed some of that. I think when Leto told it to Paul, to see things with adult eyes, to see things with mature eyes, to see a bigger picture, to not see things through a child's perspective. Uh, Not that being a child is a bad thing, but sometimes reality is hard to for children to kind of grasp, so to speak.